In this video, I will tell you 4 of the most important things that you need to know to improve systematically all your difficult conversations with the people you love. The way you handle difficult conversations will define your quality of life. First of all, why do we have to teach how to handle difficult conversations? Because most people avoid difficult conversations. And it's not because they want to do badly, and it's not because they're lazy. It's because they want to say the truth, but the problem is that the truth might hurt the relationship. So the challenge is this one: say the truth, say what you want to say, and keep the relationship healthy. And it's not easy, it's very difficult. So most people have no idea on how to do that because there are no courses to teach you how to do that properly, psychologically speaking. So the only option that we have is to avoid conversation. And avoiding difficult conversations is a guarantee to destroy relationships. So we're going to solve this problem today. The 4 tips are these ones. First, the body posture. The second, synchronized attention. Third, activate meaning when you speak. And fourth, listening phase. I will teach you how to do that in one video, so brace yourself. There's a lot of content. My name is Dr. Guillaume Dulude. I teach human relationships, communication strategies for over 25 years, and I've taught to 100,000 people in different workshops, courses in order to have better communications, nonverbal communication, and verbal communication. I've been to 150 countries to test these hypotheses and these techniques all over the world. So the techniques that I'm going to show you today are what we would say universal. They will always work with anyone independently of the culture. Let's start with the first tip, the posture. First of all, I never recommend anyone to have a difficult conversation standing up. Never, never, never. Standing up creates instability, and for your brain and for the other person's brain, it's related to flying or attacking. So this movement, even if they're subtle, they're not good at all. We need a solid base if you want to start a difficult conversation. So I always recommend to sit down face to face, not in an angle. When you're in an angle, your brain and the other person's brain detect that it's a possibility to go away, to escape, to fly. So you might feel more reassured on the short term, but it maintains an anxiety, and this is not what you want. You want face to face sitting. Now, how close you need to be? What you want is to be as close as possible without feeling that you're in the other person's bubble. So you will feel it, okay? It's natural to feel it, like you feel too close. It feels a little bit invasive. So you want to get as close as possible without triggering this bubble effect. But if you're too far away, it will create the opposite. It will create a predatory and combat effect. So we don't want that. If you're too close, you're breaking the bubble. If you're too far, it's creating opposition. So we want to avoid too far and too close. So when you're sitting, you will see the other person. You adjust the distance according to how you feel. So you want to go as close as possible without invasion. This is your optimal distance. Now, this can vary from culture to culture, and it will vary depending on the existing relationship. But this needs to be a conscious choice, not just I sat there because there was a chair there. No, you need to control the environment because you need to design psychological processes even before you start the conversation. Now, when we talk about posture, if there is an object, for example, there's a table there, any object will tend to lower the relationship. It will make the relationship harder to develop. Any object. So if you have an object or if you have a table, you will probably compensate by just leaning a little bit more forward. Okay? Most of the time you will have this mirroring effect. All right? So if you compare the angle here, you want to have a similar angle on both sides. Now, the goal is not to mimic artificially the other person's position because the other person will detect that you're just mimicking. Don't mimic. Try to feel that you want to get as close as possible, again, without invading the other person's space. So it has to come from a feeling, not because you want to copy the position because the other person will detect it like this. All right, so this is the basic position. So as close as possible, and ideally you want to have a symmetric angle. Let me give you an example. If someone is very straight, okay, this is 90 degrees here, you want to be about 90 degrees also, or a little bit more forward, okay, a little bit more, just to create a little tendency. But if someone is 90 degrees, you cannot be in 45 degrees, because you will invade the other person's space, and the other person will most likely react by leaning backward to create distance. So you need to be sensitive about space and distances. In the human world, we are so close to one another that every centimeter or millimeter of movement can make a difference. You need to be tuned with that to have the proper position before starting the communication. So this was step one. Now, step two. Step two is only in your head. We're going to use attention. There are different types of attentional processes. We're going to focus on conscious, sustained attention. It's a little bit like a laser. A laser, you can choose to focus on something and you can switch target consciously. So when you think about something consciously, your laser is shooting and aiming at this thought. So your attention can aim at anything: internal targets, external targets. For example, if I'm listening to you, you're talking to me, my conscious attention, my laser, is focusing only on you, and my peripheral attention is trying to inhibit contamination processes or distractors. So I'm trying to protect my conscious attention. So if I have an emotion and I have a thought in my mind, I can change the focus of attention and focus on an idea in my head. For the brain, it doesn't matter where is the target. So whether the target is the other person, whether it's an elephant or an animal, something flying around, or a thought in your head or someone else, it's all targets, all possible targets. Now, your job in a difficult conversation is to choose where to focus your attention, and you need to control that at every second. But not only that, you need to also be aware where the other person's attention is. So basically, what you want is always synchronized attention. If someone is talking, the conscious attention is on himself, because you require your conscious attention to translate emotion, thought patterns into verbal content and after express it. So you need conscious attention on yourself. But you must also verify that the other person's conscious attention is also on you. In other words, it's like tennis. Both players must focus on the same ball. It's only the ball that is changing from side to side. So, if I stop talking, the other person starts speaking. We switch. The other person's focusing on himself, and I must unplug my attention on myself, and I must focus my attention on the other person. So, this is always the same focus of attention. It has to be focused on one side for both people or the other side. It has to be maintained like that during all conversation. You're going to say it's not that difficult. It's very difficult. Because, for example, you're listening while the other person is speaking. You will have emotions here. And emotions will try to unfocus your attention and divide your attention on yourself. So if you do that, you split your attention. You are in divided attention. So basically, your attention will alternate between the other person and yourself, and it will flicker like this super fast. What's the problem? You're playing with two balls. Tennis cannot be played with two balls. It's impossible. And the problem is your nonverbal will change. Your blinking rate will change. Your smile will change. Your breathing will change. Your posture will change. You will move. The other person will detect it in less than 50 milliseconds. And also now the other person will become in split attention. So both of you guys are now in split attention. If you are in a difficult conversation with split attention, negative emotions will rise like this for both of you. The relationship will be negatively impacted, and you will burn the subject of conversation you're trying to solve. So it's all bad. So, first, posture. Second, synchronize attention at all cost. It doesn't matter what you're thinking. It doesn't matter who's saying what, when. It doesn't matter the emotion. You need to control joint attention. This is your number one priority at this point. So first, position. Second, you synchronize attention. If you're speaking, the attention is on yourself, so you must make sure that the other person's attention is also on yourself. Now the attention is synchronized, you can start talking. It's all good. If the other person wants to start speaking, or you detect divided attention, you have a choice to make. Either you stop speaking, you transfer attention on the other person, and therefore you transfer the ball, and we respect the rule of synchronized attention. This is your job for all the conversation, independently if you have positive, negative emotions, whether you agree or you don't agree with the other person. So this is not easy. It takes practice, but you will see it will give results. All right, so number one, posture. Number two, attention synchronization. Number three, it's time to talk. What do you say? When you speak, it is important to activate meaning. Meaning is not just words that you're saying like that. Meaning is emotion that you activate while speaking. And so the order of the things that you want to say matters. If you don't say the things in the right order, it does not create motion, it does not create meaning. So I use a technique called a vector. A vector is a movement. It's like an arrow, it's a flow of energy. So depending on the order of your words, it will create a movement and energy. I will suggest you 5 points that you need to know and say in that order to activate meaning so the other person is interested and engaged every time you're speaking. So the first thing is context. Context means that you need to lay out element in the environment, in the situation that everybody should agree upon that will introduce the rest of the message. For example, I'm talking with someone, I'm gonna say like, look, we've known each other for 5 years. We've been through different projects together. Sometimes it went well, sometimes it did not go so well. And right now we are at a crucial point in the next project that we need to do. Okay, so this is just a random example that 3 elements of context. You need to choose the element of context that will facilitate the absorption of number 5. The second is the trigger. The trigger is a small element that disrupts the stability of the situation and that creates the conversation, makes this conversation absolutely necessary. So you explain different element of context and something happened. It can be something very small, like I was in the shower and it just, I was thinking about this, and it can be very small. Or I got a phone call from someone and this. So there's an element that breaks the stability of the environment and that triggers the rest of the domino. So this is the trigger. The third point is awareness. Because of the context, because of the trigger, you became aware of something important. This is the core of your message. This is where you need to prepare. What do you want to say? What's your message? What's your opinion? What's the main content? So there was a context. Everybody agrees on the context. There was a trigger. There was an event. And this triggered your reflection. This is your main content. And you need to write that down before, and you need to clarify what is it exactly that you want to say. This must come after the context and after the trigger. So the context must be related to the trigger, and the trigger must be related to the awareness, which is your main content. And once you've explained what you want to say, this is the core of your message. Number 4 is common goals. So because of your reflection, because your introspection, because you thought about your message, you come back to what we're doing in this relationship and where we're aiming together. So you come back here to what is it that we're doing again? What are we aiming? What do we want together? What do you want? What is this other person wanting? So you need to remind both of you guys what's important and where we're going. So this should be a no-brainer. So the goal should be a confirmation for you and the other person that yes, this is where we're going. And finally, you go to number 5, your request. That's what you want to ask. This is the most important part of the message. Number 5 is basically, this is why I want this. This is what I want to talk about. This is the change that I need. So this is the most important part of your message. This is what you want. This must last 1 minute, 30 seconds. It's the shortest part of your message. So most people, they do it in reverse. They don't care about the posture. They don't care about synchronizing the attention, and they start by number 5. I would like this. I would like that. I would like to talk about this. I would like you to stop doing that. Start doing that. This is your number 5. You never start with your number 5 because it's not activated with meaning. Meaning is supposed to increase along these 5 components. You never start with number 5. So, context first, everybody agrees on that, which leads to a trigger, which led you to think and to have a reasoning process and to discuss your point of view. You remind yourself of the goal and you finish with the request. So if you do that well, during this process, the quality of the attention of the other person will increase. So the person will be more and more engaged. So the better you are at explaining and doing these 5 components, the more engagement you will get from the other person. If there's no real connection between the context and the trigger, or the context or the awareness, or the goals are not clear, if there's something missing, there's going to be a loose in your vector. And this is why energy drops, engagement drops, the other person's attention will go away and will start being in split attention. People will start interrupting you. So the tighter you are between these 5 points, the more energy you get, the more meaning you get, and this will have more importance in the rest of the conversation. So I repeat, number 5 is your last point. This is your most important topic of conversation. This is your request. This is what you want. This is what you want to talk about. This is the problem that you want to solve. Number 5 must be filled with energy, meaning, and it depends on number 1, 2, 3, and 4. Once you've said number 5, you will stop speaking, you transfer your attention on the other person, and you will wait for a reply. And now you will go to the next stage of conversation where you're going to be both implied, both engaged to solve a problem, to explore a problem without triggering negative emotions. So this is how you say something, creating engagement, even though it might involve negative emotions. Because yes, we talk because there are negative emotions. We have problems, but this technique allows to create meaning, therefore more relationship to solve this problem together. If you say these things in the wrong order, it's not going to work. I've coached thousands of people. I've filmed and analyzed thousands of conversations. The order of every of these components is day and night. It's the difference between engagement or disagreement, negative emotions, anger, and worsening the conversation. This is not what we want. But if there is enough energy, you're climbing a stair together and you will go towards solutions and long-term solutions. So finally, number 4, when you're done expressing your vector, the other person will reply. The other person will not just say, yes, sure, absolutely, let's do that. There's going to be another conversation following up. But now you have properly set yourself to explore all angles of conversations. So if you do that, the other person will take number 5 and bring it further. And this is why listening skills are crucial. If you have done everything properly, after number 5, you stop thinking, transfer your attention on the other person will react. How? The person will say, oh, okay, I understand, but I don't agree with this, but my point of view is this, and all that is good. This is what you want. You want the other person to be engaged in the conversation, and you want to know exactly what he's or she's thinking. And so you want to know everything about the other person. So your listening skills are absolutely crucial. So after number 5, the other person starts speaking. You must focus your attention on the other person. You must never come back in split attention. If you do all right, everything right, and at the end, you just get scared that it's not going to go your way, and you start preparing your answer before, you will split your attention. Therefore, you're playing with 2 balls, and everything will be destroyed. But if you keep the same rule, so the other person is expressing himself, you focus attention only on this other person, you don't think about anything else, you wait. At a certain point, you will stop speaking, the attention will go to you, you keep the ball, you start thinking about what you want to say. Again, you resynchronize attention on one end after the other. If you respect this despacing, you will feel that the relationship quality increase. You will feel more understood. The other person will also feel more understood. You will have less negative emotion, and you will, both of you, start to be more and more proud about the progress that you're doing in this specific and hard conversation. If you do that for long enough, you will start to see things more and more alike slowly. It depends of the situation, it depends of the chronicity of the matter of the subject of conversation. It depends of all kinds of things. But the process will increase the likelihood of understanding each other, not being in opposition, being able to say the truth both ways, and find what can you do to solve this problem. So if you do all these things right, it doesn't mean that after like 30 minutes of an hour of conversation, you have all the magic answers. But I can guarantee you that both of you will be proud of the conversation. Because if you do all these things, it will be a huge progress in the way you handle difficult conversations. And the good thing is that if two people do that once, they can replicate the same process in other conversations, with other subjects of conversation, in other topics. Same principle. So you build trust with the other person because it starts to be like, we can handle these kind of things. And this is how trust increases. This is how relationship improves. If you don't do that, you have no choice but to avoid conversations, which is not something I recommend, because subject of conversations that are not addressed, they go under the rug and they accumulate like a credit card. And once the credit card is full, there's someone that's going to knock at your door and say, you need to pay right now. And this is when the relationship breaks. So, in order to pay your bill on a regular basis, it's this technique that I suggest you. So, that's it for today. I know that was a lot of content. You don't have to be perfect in all of these processes. But I can guarantee you that if you try to improve all these little parts, you will see a difference. It is almost impossible that it goes worse. It will go better. It will go better for you. It will go better for the other person. So, guys, try it and write me in comments if you tried it, what happened. If you have other questions, what results did you get? What's your other questions? What was the most difficult? And I'm going to make other videos to precise all these little tips. And I'm sure that it's going to help you a lot, guys. So looking forward to hear about you. If you like this kind of videos, just tell me what kind of subjects you want to talk about, or if you see videos about communication skills or psychology and you're wondering if it's true or not, is it reliable or not, is it scientific or not, just show me the video and I'm going to do a proper analysis of this video. So please subscribe and see you soon.